everyone. Hello.
মাইকটা আপনাদের জন্য যখন
Good afternoon.
কথা শুরু হবে
Good afternoon. Actually. If everyone would like to come and take a seat, there's plenty of room on the other side. You can take a stroll through our lovely front garden and then come in round the back, or you can come up along the front. Don't be shy. We are on the second day of Condition Report 4, Stepping Out of Line, Art Collectives and Translocal Parallelism, that we've been concocting at Raw Material Company in Dhaka, Senegal, over the last year. And which we're very happy to be doing here at the Dhaka Art Summit. Yesterday, we opened the symposium thinking about collectivity in a very expanded sense with a keynote lecture by Elizabeth Povinelli. And then, in a somewhat meta way, as we were exploring the forms of collectives. So what kind of structures and shapes emerge from collective practice. Today, we're getting into looking more closely at different ways in which collectives work. So we're going to be beginning with making collective history, and this afternoon we'll be doing a panel on collective economy. We were just upstairs in the auditorium watching a film called Gidree, which was a co-production by Sowing Soman Kidikora and Kaduyara. You'll be hearing from Sowing Soman Kidikora this afternoon. But without further ado, I will introduce the panel for this morning. So this panel is really an invitation to think about what it means to make history in a collective way, but also how to make collective history. For too long, history has been written from one perspective, and it's failed to take into account multiplicity of narratives, the confusing reality that we all inhabit. And so, and that's particularly pronounced when we think about the histories of collectives. And of course, we can extend this thinking and ask if isn't every history a collective history anyway. So these are some of just a couple of thoughts to begin the panel, with whom we have some very dear colleagues and collaborators from afar and from near. I don't really know where I am, whether I'm in Dhaka or Dakar. So when I say far and near, I start to get quite confused at the moment. But I will share with you some information on the collectives represented on this panel. We have Luta, caba, inda from Guinea Bissau, represented by Sonia Vaz-Borges here with us. For nearly 30 years, an archive of film and audio material was stored at the Guinean Film Institute in Bissau, institutionally neglected and on the verge of complete ruination. The material in it is a testimony of a decade of collective and internationally connected cinema praxis in Guinea-Bissau, as part of the people's struggle for independence from Portuguese colonialism, 1963 to 1974, that's the war, and subsequent nation building. In 2012, in collaboration with Guinean filmmakers Sana Nanda, Flora Gomez and Suleiman Biai, and with institutional support from Arsenal Institute for Film and Video Art in Berlin, artist Philippa Cesar, curator Tobias Herring, and many others embarked on a long-term project aimed at reaccessing this archive. Its particular state, suspended between ruination and work in progress, activates questions about past promises and their contemporary pertinence. And just to point out, Luta caba, inda means the struggle is not over, which is exactly the same title as the film that we just showed earlier, Bawlee. We also have Gidree Bawlee from Bangladesh. So Goan-based Gidree Bawlee Foundation of Arts acts as a catalyst for social inclusivity through community-focused activities in northwest Bangladesh. Since 2001, the foundation has brought together local communities and artists from across the country to learn from, expand, and experiment with local cultural traditions, often creating something new in the process. In addition to working with the indigenous Santal community of Bawlee, Gidree also collaborates with other communities living in the village who are equally custodians of their ancient heritage. The goal is to build creative communities with every member participating in these social sculptures. Over the years, Gidree has organized a series of distinctive artist-in-residence programs, each with a different focus: tradition, environment, craft, but all based on a collaborative workshop methodology to build a strong sense of community among diverse groups. And so for that, we have Sama Jamal Mushum with us. And joining us from South Africa is Ntone Jabe from Chimurenga. He couldn't be here today, but we're going to be WhatsApping him in, and we'll actually begin with him. So I'm doing things in a reverse order, if you'll bear with me. So just a few words on Chimurenga. Taking its name from the Shona word for revolutionary struggle, Chimurenga is a pan-African platform of writing, art, and politics. Its outputs include a journal of culture, art, and politics of the same name, Chimurenga Magazine, a quarterly broadsheet called The Chronic, the Chimurenga Library, which is an online resource of collected, independent Pan-African periodicals and personal books, the African Cities Reader, a biannual publication of urban life, Africa style, and the Pan-African Space Station, PASS, an online radio station and pop-up studio. Chimurenga has addressed such topics as the rewriting of the continent's history, the role technology plays in its future, and its musical histories and diasporas. And finally, to moderate the panel, we're very lucky to have Shawon Akand, who we met last year when we came to Dhaka, and who has been a great help to us in preparing this symposium. Shawon is an artist, researcher, and curator in Dhaka. He is the director and co-founder of Jotha Shilpa, a center for traditional and contemporary arts. Akand is also co-founder of Crack International Art Camp, which launched in 2007 and is held in Kushtia, rural Bangladesh. His publications include An Outline of Bangladesh Folk Art, Textile Traditions of Bangladesh, and The Tendency of Modern Art in Bangladesh. So, without further ado, I'll hand over to Ntone, who is in South Africa right now, and then I'll hand over to Shawon first, who's going to say a few words on the theme of the panel. So it's quite a choreography, this. And then we'll hand over to Tone, and then there'll be a discussion time at the end of the panel. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Dulce. And it's really a little very difficult time for me because I never moderate any panel before. This is the first time they invited me for this kind of panel, and it's a good opportunity for me to learn something from other initiatives from Africa. I know Gidree Bawlee, they are our colleagues. We have been working here for long, but the idea, oh, it's working now. Good, you didn't hear me. So the idea is making collective history is something very important thing, and I sometimes think that it's a very confusing also. So when some collective started their journey, I'm pretty sure that nobody think that they are going to making history. But eventually this kind of collaborative collectives or initiatives contributed in the history of their region. And most importantly, as I believe that every history can be a local history. We can think like that, because if we can see the world history, what is existing nowadays, it has some kind of evolution. And for example, if you see the last 500 years, so last 200 years, the history of world art is changing day by day. It's not that all the time historians are looking at the subject material in the same way. So It's changing because of many things, and many factors are playing very important role to making history. Nowadays, a new thing came to our art practice, that is, it's called collectives. In 50s or 60s, we didn't hear this kind of term. It was something different, but from 90s or later on, we are hearing that the initiatives are playing very important role for making history for every region. So my idea is actually in this panel, we are going to learn many things. For example, Sonia is here, who is representing Guinea Bissau, and and Moshum is here also. She's going to share their story about Gidree Bawlee, who are playing very important role in Bangladesh art history, and also playing very most importantly, they are playing role in the making history of the Northeast Bengal. So I'm sure that actually their presentation will be the most important part, not my introduction. So it's better, Sonia, could you please start your... No, Notne is going to start. Okay. So Notne is in Skype call from South Africa. He's going to join with us, isn't it? It's a technological thing.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, please. We are here, we are listening.
I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. It's feels a bit weird. Hello? Hello? Anyone there? Hello?
So it's a long distance call.
Hey. Hello. All right. So let's do it like a sort of what Glissant called Creole tale, each one just spit their bit into the fire. So I'm just going to read from some notes that I made while I was working on the First Act project. And one of the things I was struck by collecting stories about that event was, I suppose, was numbers, big numbers. So I took some notes along the way. I'm just going to read from them. I hope that's useful to the conversation there. Here we go. 5 saxophones to ascend. 11 machetes dripping sugarcane. 9,000 birds in prayer. 25 million people hiding in the Mediterranean. 246 displaced presidents. 12 mother tongues. 2 towering moogs downtown New York. 16,000 hours of road travel by 2 puissants OK jazz. 2 2 weeks of national mourning for Franco Luambo Makiadi. 82,346 feet pounding for free miseducation. 273 Mande variations. 700 kilometers of embroidered bubu. 400 recorded versions of Mbube, and $15 million owed to Solomon Linda. 217,000 biras hurled at Mugabe. 14 languages spoken via the talking drum. 1,765,000 people to bury Fela. 270,000 lucid dreams on a Robben Island bed. 82 braiding workshops on Aminata Moseka's head. 125 beats per minute. 14 pseudonyms. 320 samples of a barking atomic dog. 57,000 car guards queuing for their salary. 11,712 semitones inside Salif Keita's throat. 900 scroll of 8 bars. 900 landlords. 5 new world orders. 700 declarations of war. 50,000 corrective rapes. 76,000 Somali sheep en route to slaughter. 5 gazillion, 300 trillion, 75 billion, 512 million flowers blooming in concert. 17 million unpublished poems. 22 plane crashes. 7 million Chinese cursing the equatorial sun. 214 billion Skype minutes. 59 countries. 227 million portable electric generators. 12 slow down improvisation in triple meters. 300,410,900 cubic kilometers of water between twins, Uhadi and Berimbau. 114 translations of the Quran. 2,500 translations of electric black guitar. 11,000 daughters shuffling egusi seeds. 10,220 undocumented ideas by Tawa Moses Molelekwa. 48 preludes and fugues by Bach. 87 African names of the Indian Ocean. 912,000 posters advertising penis enlargement in Troyville, Johannesburg. 400 Orishas on duty. One love. I also want to read from a poem Audre Lorde wrote en route to Festac. She wrote this piece called Sahara, and of course she wrote it while the plane was traveling from Barcelona, where they'd made a stop en route to Lagos from New York, and was traveling to Lagos. So she wrote this above the desert. It goes, high above this desert, I am becoming absorbed. And she goes on about sand. I mean, it's quite a long poem. She goes on about sand. She goes, my own place, sand. Never another place, sand. Punishments of sand. Hosannas of sand. Epiphanies of sand. Crevasses of sand. Mother of sand. I've been here a long time, sand. I suppose it's a comment on the homogeneous thing about black people and how each grain of sand is recognizable on its own terms. But this thing about numbers, really, you will probably hear the music in the background as I speak. It's prayer time here, but I'll just go on. So part of what makes the story of Festac, or the stories of Festac, as I was saying earlier, so opaque is the numbers. There are many. Millions of people, billions of naira, thousands of participants, the festival village, the stadium, the theater, and so forth. And as anthropologists will know, when it comes to black life, numbers can blind your eyes. For instance, you'll be okay to discuss the Nigerian film and video system. How many movies Nollywood produces per day without being able to name a single movie director or even a single movie. The opacity of Festac is partly due to its size and the too muchness of Nigerian ostentatiousness. Wow, 6 a.m. now, wow. The too muchness of Festac presents an interesting problem. The writing of Africa is based on lack of archive, lack of resources, etc., etc. It's a constant lament. With Festac, we seem to have the opposite problem. There are too many people, too many documents, and no master narrative to peg them to or to contest. The photographer Marilyn Nance alludes to this when she asked what to do with all of the images she made at Festac. Well, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Marilyn Nance's work, but she was a young photographer who found herself there as part of the U.S. delegation, and without a brief, so she just kept snapping. And 40 years later, she's looking at the thousands of images she made, and she doesn't know what to talk about any single one of those images. And in retrospect, it feels like every photograph is important, if not necessary on its own terms, then as part of a whole. So, and you know, and there are too many images for her to show at once every time she presents a Festac archive. So she works almost like a DJ when she presents them. You know, she produces a selection. Sometimes it's random, sometimes it's based on mood. But more appropriately, I think what she presents is a sort of mixtape, really. And mixtape began their life in the late 1960s as sonic diaries or postcards. They eventually became media for the distribution of original music principally through hip-hop's habit of putting the personal on the shelf for consumption. But the commercial evolution of the mixtape is not really what I was interested in while working on the project or the writing project. For the project, I considered the mixtape as a form of writing in and of itself, a form of writing at the intersection of the institutional and the personal, where the institution becomes personal, where the historical becomes peoples with names. Like the scrapbook, the family photo album, or the personal diary, the mixtape is meant to say something about its maker, even when produced for someone else, especially when produced for someone else. The family photo album has no claim to history, only to the lines between history. And personally, but I also think collectively as a group at Chimurenga, we don't worry too much for history. We're more concerned with memory. We're more concerned with the intangibles, the unreliable, than contesting history per se. I think I'll leave it there for now. Since it is a monologue, let's not make it too long.
So, actually, there was a nice discussion by Notne from South Africa, who is one of the central characters in Chimurenga. And what he said, is a really interesting thing. And sometimes I'm trying to say something about the archival importance is very important for making history, and sometimes I think that maybe in the Bangladesh context, people are not aware about the importance of archive in the some sense. You may not know, most of the people, but in Bangladesh we are facing this kind of problem that if you not want to dig down something to making history, it is a big problem for any researcher to find the real documents. And sometimes I think like that maybe it's because of river, because in Bangladesh is the land of a river. Maybe it can be like this. The river is changing their course many times here, and that's why the people of Bangladesh or Greater Bengal, their mind is also changing sometimes, and they don't not much aware about the importance of the documents, preserving the documents, or something like that. And sometimes I also think like that maybe some people don't feel that their life, their documents are really important, and that's why we don't know many things also. Because when the academicians try to find something, it's not very easy task to find the real documents to written history. That's why the local history is very important, and it's people are also getting aware about that to create the local history. And sometimes it can be like that. Maybe we need to focus more to create the local history, and it can be contribute the so-called international history as well. So anyway, this kind of theoretical discussion, this kind of maybe make more time, take more time. we better go for the next one. And next one is Sonia.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ra. Thank you very much, Das, for inviting the collective Luta, caba, inda for this. No, it's on. I think it's on. Okay. For inviting Luta, caba, inda to present our collective here. So my name is Sonia Vaz Borges. I'm an historian, or as I call myself, a militant interdisciplinary historian. And I end up in this group, in this collective, Luta, caba, inda, by chance. I can explain briefly a little bit about it. I'm Portuguese, and I moved to Berlin to do my PhD. And it was winter time in Germany, late in the evening, and the project Luta, caba, inda was going to present the film The Return of Cabral, a film that I heard for so long, but I never had the opportunity to see it because somehow it was lost. And for those who had been in Berlin, nobody wants to go out after 8 o'clock or even 4 o'clock because it's winter, it's cold, it's snowing. So I was not prepared to go, but somehow something said, no, just go. And it was in this going to see this movie that I met Filipa Cesar, Sana Nanada, and other members. And actually had the opportunity to meet Sana Nanada, who was the one who made the film. So and throughout this process, I was navigating with them since 2012 without knowing that I was being part of a collective. And I just realized that I was part of this collective. The coin just dropped, like when Filipa told me, like, you are the one who was going to represent the collective. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? So that's how I end up in the Luta, caba, inda collective. So what Luta, caba, inda is a project of relating with two countries, Guinea Bissau and Cape Verde. Just to situate a little bit of these two countries, Guinea Bissau is located on the west coast of Africa. It's between Senegal and Guinea-Conakry, and Cape Verde is an archipelago of 10 islands located also in the west coast of Africa in the Atlantic Ocean. So in 1956, the PAIGC, the African Party for Independence of Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, they start to elaborate the liberation struggle or the independence struggle. And this collective took this, that started in Portugal, took this struggle, this idea of liberation to Guinea-Bissau and to Cape Verde, and it was in the jungles of Guinea-Bissau that this struggle happened. Although it was liberating two countries, Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, and also to add another one, actually to liberate the colonialist country, Portugal, who was facing fascism. So when we talk about Portugal and the April 25, that is so important, it was actually based, or the ideas came from the liberation struggle that was happening in Guinea-Bissau. So this is the Luta, caba, inda. One of the projects of the PAIGC was to train people, to create a national conscience of liberation against colonialism and any kind of oppression. So one of the projects very related with PAIGC was the project of education. So in the 1960s, Amilcar Cabral, the well-known figure of the struggle, he sent 3 students to Cuba to study cinema. These 3 students, they never saw a film in their lives, they never left their village, and they traveled to Cuba in a ship, at the bottom of a ship, which is, when we think about the crossing the ocean, we think about the slavery, but there is also a crossing the ocean for the liberation struggle. And this was the concept of, this was how they travel. So Sana Nada, Flora Gomes, and Josefina Crato, they travel to Cuba to study cinema. And the goal of Cabral of sending them to Cuba to study cinema was like, you go, you learn, and you return, and you are coming to film the struggle, because we need this material for the next generations. So they went to Cuba, they were trained in cinema, and they returned. And when they returned, they started immediately to film the struggle. And the photo that I have here was actually one of the cameras that filmed all the material, or most of the material that the Luta Caba in the project recovered in 2012, around 2012. That's Sana holding the camera and explaining how it worked and telling the story how it was to film the struggle. So, and it was through this process of this collective process of recovering these scenes, which I have a picture here that I'll show. That these collectives start to get together and to understand the history of the struggle, because there are two, as we've been talking about here about the history, we've been talking, the history of the struggle, we had the documents and we had the figure of Cabral, but there was almost no images or film images about this time. All the image that we had, it was from the Portuguese side, the colonial war. And I think it's important to make the difference here, or as a historian, I try to do the difference between what is that I'm studying. I'm not studying colonial war, I'm studying the liberation struggle, which is centering the liberation struggle at the center of history. And the colonial war is a side effect of it, or is the one who create the liberation struggle, but also the side effect, because the liberation struggle must be at the center of these studies. What I was saying. Oh, now I lost myself. Oh, the film. So this is a process of trying to recuperate the bobbins, the reels of that was in Sana's house in a room. And somehow throughout the time they were being destroyed. They were being eaten by vinegar and so on. All these things that destroyed the film. And the history of these films is that they were filmed, but they were never seen. So actually, it took more than 40 years for Sana and the other comrades who had filmed with him the struggle to see what they filmed for the first time. So somehow this material was about to be lost, and this is the process in Guinea Bissau of seeing what was in these reels, so they could be transferred to Berlin in order to be recovered. And therefore, the films, they were from 100 hours of footage, 40 was saved, all the rest was lost. But within this footage, we discovered there were material that was never shown. For example, in my case, I studied the history of education of PIGC, the education system that developed during the liberation struggle. And I never had the opportunity to hear the sounds or even to imagine how the school was. During a trip to Cape Verde, or during the interviews that I've made with students who were in the schools and professors, they describe it, how the school looked like. But it was through the recovery of these films that we had actually a scene of how the school was organized. And in this way, we combine the memory and the film. And this brings me to the other part of the project. It was when when all this 12, almost 10 years of project was done, and the film was created, the spell reel. It was important not just to show the film in Western theaters, but we took the cinema to actually to Guinea Bissau. And this, and we create a mobile cinema that went through Guinea Bissau to show these films on open air. And it was interesting. I was not there, but I'm telling the stories that were being told to me and the images that I have. It was interesting to see the history being shown for the first time, and two generations there. We have the generations of the struggle, who have done the struggle, and the new generation who didn't know this story. So this is a kind of a collective work that was done to recover these scenes, and also to show and to see these footages in a way that we could have the memory of those who participate and add more to the scenes, and also the new generation asking for questions, questioning what happened, how was it, explain to me, and willing to know more about their stories, because the footage would help them to formulate the questions. It was a visual, had the visual impact on them. And this brings me to another point, that how this process of bringing the films to Guinea-Bissau is part of a long project that was created by the African Party for Guinea-Bissau, was created by the PAIGC. That was the project of militant education. And when Cabral sent these 3 students to Cuba to study cinema, it was part of their militant project, or militant education project. And what happened with the mobile cinema, it was another part of this militant project, or the militant education project, because it was coming from 1960s, 1970s to 2000s. So it's a continuation of it. And also to think about the collective of Luta, caba, inda. Our collective is a continuation of many other collectives. For example, the PAIGC was a collective, and before the PAIGC there was another collective. For example, the struggles against the pacification wars that Portugal was doing in Guinea-Bissau. And so on. These collectives, they continue at different times and at different spaces, but they all have the same idea or ideal, that is the liberation. And normally, I think, to think about the collective of the struggle, and using the name of Amilcar Cabral, which is the most known person, we in our collective, we have a little bit of difficulties in just using this westernized way of seeing the person, the leader, which is like isolating him. He becomes an independent thinker, an isolated figure, and is not related with the struggle itself. And somehow I like to, when people ask me, Amilcar Cabral, yes, but Amilcar has the individual person and Cabral as the collective. So when people talk to me about Cabral, Cabral means for me the collective and not just the person itself. So to place Cabral inside this collective that create the liberation struggle. And to give one definition of the collective of the work, the collectivity of the work, and the thought around the liberation struggle, and how I define, or we define, the liberation struggle. We define as the liberation struggle or the liberation movement as an ongoing social and political phenomenon that has the individual and the collective process response of people who become conscious of oppression, racialization, dehumanization, and exploitation, which they are subjugated inside but also outside their countries, organize themselves in order to dismantle these oppressive structures. And this means the collective that it was initiated, that PAIGC was part of it, and we are continuing with the work that we are doing on the Luta, caba, inda. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. It's really interesting to learn the journey of Luta, caba, inda. And I'm also, as a playing the role of a moderator, I came to know many things from the Sonia, and yeah, this is very interesting for you also, I believe. And now the next person is Salma Zamal Moshum, and who are playing a very important role in developing art practice in North Bengal. Salma Jamal Moshum from Gidree, Bawlee.
Thank you, Shanda. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Is this all right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Please.
We are Gidree Bawlee Foundation of Arts. So we are based in northwest Bangladesh. Should we move to the next slide? Yeah. So you can see ठाकुरगांव up there where we are based. It's 400 kilometers from here, and it's the second northest district in Bangladesh. So we are based in a village called Balia, and our organization was started in 2001 through a collaboration with the Santal indigenous community living in the village, and through a festival which we call the Santal Festival, where we brought in artists, performers, and students of different fine arts faculty from the universities around Bangladesh to collaborate and to experiment and, celebrate with the local culture and the community in general. So after that, we have organized a lot of art residencies, workshop camps, and other art-based events in the village, not only with the Santal indigenous community, but also other communities living in the village. So our practice evolved over the years, and at present we are relate to the I'm not used to this, yeah. So we kind of relate to the concept of social sculpture that was coined by Joseph Beuys. So it's like we form a sculpture, the whole village, with all the community members participating in their own ways. And that's about it. I'm going to show you some images from our workshops and camps, where we brought in contemporary artists which collaborate with the local artists. I mean, artists and craftsmen and performers from our village. So, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, please. So this is in the Santal community, and that pond is very important because we hold community activities around that pond. The previous slide, please. Yeah. So a lot of performances are performed here with participation from the communities, and I mean, it's a regular thing. Yeah. So this is an installation, and yeah, that's the pond again. Okay. So about making history and working with history, I'm going to talk about the projects we have here in the Art Summit. So I'm not good with theoretical terms and everything, so I'm just going to go through our projects to make you understand what we work on and how we are proceeding with our ideology. So the next one. Okay, this is our puppet group, children's puppet group, who this formed in 2018 by a few kids, I think 4 kids at first. It started with a collaboration with Jol Putul Puppet. We brought the puppeteers in the village who collaborated with the children, who then again formed their own group. And now there are 7 members and also some other in the line, and also they're writing their own scripts and directing their own plays, directing, scripting, acting out. So we have brought this group here as our participation in the collective's amoeba. So I'm not sure if you saw it. We have a puppet show, which is the script is based on the history. It's a myth that is in the village, because there's a pond, not that one. There's another big one, where there's this myth that a goddess lived in that pond, and she used to give out golden pots for weddings for the village people. Whenever there's a wedding, you would go there and worship, and she would emerge from the water and give you the golden pots. And once upon a time, somebody cheated her, because he actually replaced a golden pot with another. I mean, it's not fake. It was also a golden pot, but it was not the original one that the goddess gave out. So after that, the goddess didn't emerge anymore. She just left the village altogether. So the village itself is called Shona Patila. Shona means gold. Patila is patil, pot. So the name derives from here. The children has developed a script around that myth, incorporating the problems they face in real life in current times, like dowries, environmental degradation, and how cutting down trees has affected their lives and such. So a performance is, this is also the children, and this is also upstairs. So they're performing, this is developed, all the time they're hearing stories of different creatures that got lost due to environmental degradation and cutting down of old trees. And we do a lot of environmental consciousness projects in the village, and also we have an art project called Insight, where artists work with environmental projects and themes. So through that they have this idea, and I think their grandmothers and their fathers and mothers, I think their parents also, they always talk about that there were many jungles around, there were and so many animals and tigers. They talk of tigers, which is very unusual, because in the north there shouldn't be any tiger. But what we have discovered, what they mean by tiger is nekre bag, which means nekre is wolf, and wolf is called as nekre bag. Bag is tiger. So what they mean by tiger is that local kind of wolf that has gone extinct from Bangladesh. So we don't have those anymore. So the children has developed, and also they have stories of spirits living in the trees, which has, disappeared, because with the trees, the trees don't exist anymore. So they made these masks and costumes to represent the spirits and the animals that got lost in the mindless cutting down of trees and, of losing of the jungles. So so they perform with these costumes as a reincarnation of the things that got lost, and they never saw these things. They just heard stories of these things. So this is our children's puppet and theater group, who is actually representing the local history in their own way. And I think you've seen it, this installation. So this is by Kamruzzaman Shadin, and who is the founder of the organization, and he collaborated with Gidree Bawlee to create these things. It actually is based on history. We have a community of people. It's a separate community. They call it colony. It's a very interesting term. So these people came from Assam during the partition. Assam in India, where the citizenship bill is causing havoc now. So these people went to Assam during the colonial times to cultivate the lands there, and they moved from Mymensingh, which is very near from Dhaka. I mean, it's in the southern region of Bangladesh. Is it working? Yeah. So then they moved to Assam through the colonial railways, which the British built to transport labor and military and raw materials over the country and over the region, actually. So they went to Assam, they settled there. Then after the British left, I mean, after independence of the subcontinent, I mean, the 1947, they had moved to the northern region of Bogora and Noga, I think. Noga? Rangpur, yeah. So several districts of Rangpur division, where they lost their homes again due to river erosion. They changed places and ultimately settled in Thakurgaon, where there was, you know, like the children found out, there were jungles everywhere. There were not much people living there, and so they cleared out the jungles like they did in Assam, and then they settled in there and started cultivating. These are farmers from the southern part of Bangladesh. Now they're part of the northern region. Now they're very much part of the village. And we worked with the women from that community who brought these techniques of weaving jute. So this is very traditional stuff where they kept their food stored from the ceiling. So these are not techniques to be found in Thakurgaon, actually. So they brought in this craft or this technique of making shika, we call this. So these are very large scale. Now it's part of an installation. So it kind of connects with the current situation in Assam also, how the existing population who moved from here to there during the colonial times are being pushed in Bangladesh, are being forced to, you know, move here again. So yeah. So this is about it. I'm sorry, I'm very bad at public speaking. I don't know if it.
Question: the white pots are hanging. The lights, is the light inside light to the brown light, or is it sort of?
Oh, you can see the lines over there. That's the railway track. So that's the railway track that connects Kolkata, Assam, Thakurgaon, and also Dhaka, and Mymensingh. How they, you know, each shika, each pot is a station, is a railway station.
Three-dimensional map.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So great. I think it is wonderful to learn from you about Gidree Bawlee's activities. And yeah, this is the time for a few questions. So I'm coming to you, Moshum, but before that I would like to ask a question to Sonia. When I was listening your talk and I was presentation, I was thinking about the our scenario in Bengal, in Bangladesh, in the 70s and 80s, there was this kind of field movement happened here also. And as I know, there is a close connection with the literature people, poets and artists. And all of them actually became friends, and they have contributed to create the new language of Bangladeshi art, whatever the medium is, in fine art or poetry or film. So I would love to know more about this kind of thing. Is that the reality that in what you are doing in your country? Is there any connection between some other people like writers or poets or painters are also involved in this field movement? Could you please tell us something about that? That could be fantastic.
So you are asking now or back in the days?
When you have started the movement?
The liberation struggle in Guinea Bissau. Yes, there was. Actually, most of this movement or these thoughts, they emerged in Portugal, in Casa dos Estudantes do Império, which means House of the Students of the Empire. Okay. And that was an institution that the Portuguese fascist regime created in order for students from the colonized territories. I don't use colonies because it's a passive term, and colonized, it means that there's a struggle there. So the students from the colonized territories to come to Portugal to study, and they were all living in this house. So imagine when you have students from different areas of studies, from different colonized countries, territories. You have from Guinea Bissau, from Cape Verde, from Mozambique, from Angola, and so on. So they are all in this house, and they create a magazine that was circulating inside with their thoughts about their lands.
Great.
So, and they paint and they draw. So this process of consciousness start to emerge actually in the not actually, but it starts emerges also in the colonized not colonized how you say in the country that colonized in Portugal, at the metropolis, like they like to call. So there is this connection of poets, painters, thinkers, and also it's not just on this realm, but you also have from people related with mechanics, engineers. So is this collective of people living in the same space and sharing the same kind of oppression that contribute to create the struggle too.
Great.
I don't know if I answer.
Yeah, fantastic. Actually, I was thinking, when I was listening your talk, I was thinking about the same thing happened in 80s here, even in 90s and later on. This kind of space created very organically. Not like that people think that, well, we are going to do some kind of revolution, but some same like-minded people come together and they have created this kind of family or some kind of community who are working, living together or working together, thinking together for maybe in the same pace. Fantastic. So I have a question to Moshum, a small question that we are talking about making collective history. And as I know, most of the work you have done in the northern part of Bengal and Bangladesh, and it's very far away from Dhaka. And most of the cases we see that when people try to write their history, they look from the capital, and it's a very much Dhaka-centric art history is still existing in Bangladesh. And in that perspective, why you have started this kind of initiatives in Thakurga, which is long distance from Dhaka, the capital? And do you think that through this kind of initiatives, you are going to be recognized in the so-called mainstream art history?
The answer actually lies in your question, because you said, just as you mentioned, everything is Dhaka based.
Yeah,
So
it's
we did
definitely the artistry in
Yeah.
Dhaka is Dhaka-centric. You can
Yeah,
say it like
that is exactly why Gidree Bawlee has started so far away from Dhaka, because it is necessary to bring these communities in the peripheries to to limelight, to also showcase their art.
Why
But
did you think
not
like
only
that?
showcased,
Why do you need to focus
explore.
on the periphery? Why did you think like that?
Because it is needed. Dhaka is. Everybody is doing everything in Dhaka.
Dhaka is a very
So you-
interesting place where nobody is not coming from Dhaka. Everybody is coming from somewhere else. They live in
Of
Dhaka
course.
nowadays.
Yeah. But the communities we work with, they are not in the mainstream history. Not only mainstream history, they have. If you look at research, so little research has been done on the northern region in Bangladesh. It's, the amount of focus they receive in the southern part, and if you compare it to the, to the northern part, we felt that it is necessary to, be based in there and work from there, and, and we are talking about it here, so that's a success.
That's right. So now, if you have any questions to anyone, to please ask them. They are here. Yeah, a lot of.
Thank you so much for your wonderful presentations. But I would have a question for you, Sonia. I have been very interested in this matrix of visibility and visibility of the images, and of this matrix of forgetting and remembering. And you have explained how the work that you are doing for the re-emergence of these images and what they do produce now. But I was wondering if you could please say a few words about why were these images not been shown at the time, because all this work and the travel to Cuba, and you said that the directors themselves, after 4 years, they saw for the first time their images. So I was wondering if you could say a few words about the condition of this invisibility and at the time.
Do I answer now or yeah? So the question of why these images were not being shown, it has a lot to do of how it was the after independence. After independence, Guinea Bissau was one of the few countries who self-proclaimed independence. It didn't wait for the colonial country to say, like, now we are independent. So that was in 1973. And it was only recognized by Portugal in 1974. And this period after the independence, between 1974 and 1980, was the period of filming. And, it was difficult for them to have all the material to see, to have all the technicians to see the techniques or the instruments to see it in Guinea-Bissau. They were working with Chris Marquer and so on, but some footages they didn't have the opportunity to see it. And then in 1980 there is a coup d'etat in Guinea-Bissau. And since then, there is several coups d'etats. And 1980, there was a civil war, which destroyed most of the archive of the PAIGC that they brought from Guinea-Conakry. And luckily, these reels, they were at the house of Sana. And during the civil war in 1980, he was traveling with these bobbins, so like I have to save them. He says I could leave everything behind, but I could not leave this behind. So, and this is the reasons why these footages, they didn't have the, and because since 1980, Guinea-Bissau is suffering, every 2 years there is a coup d'etat. There is no government that lasts till the end. So it's this political instability of the country and the economical instability too that doesn't allow to have the materials to see these footages. That's why one of the reasons why these images were not being shown. And there was also and this is relating with the footages, and then there is this old archive of PAIGC that was in Guinea-Bissau. You could only see it in Guinea-Bissau. And then 1980, there is almost this destruction of the archive. The daughter of Amilcar Cabral, Eva Cabral, she was the one who was collecting the papers on the floor. And Fundação Mário Soares Foundation in Portugal took this material in order to scan and to treat it, like what was left, what it could be saved. But you could then, for years, you could only see this archive on a computer in Portugal, which means that till today, people in Guinea-Bissau don't have access or didn't have material access to their own history. It is in the colonial country. And just now, in the last 2013, if I'm not wrong, that these materials start to be available online. So that's the process of how it's so difficult to access to this material, because first of all, it's not located in the country. Second of all, doing research is expensive, and how do you travel from here to there, and so on. And so, from the presentation that Antone made, yes, we have to rely a lot on memory. So memory is the archive in these political situations, in these contexts. So you rely on memory, and how do we imagine that memory?
Hey, I had a question for Mashum, if I may. Maybe, well, for Shadin. I've heard a lot about your projects, and I think they're amazing. Whether they're in a centre or periphery doesn't really matter. But I know you've kind of shown more kind of Gidree Bawlee projects here, like you had down here last summit. You've got the puppet theatre, but there's also these amazing big installations.
Yeah.
And but which are still inherently collaborative in nature, and very much, I think, has something to do with the community they're coming from. But I wondered if you thought that there's some kind of distinction between these two ways of working. I mean, some works that are, that they're named as Gidree Bawlee works, and works that you make in community, and then there are these works that. I was wondering, do you think they're for a different audience?
Okay, so yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about. One thing Gidree Bawlee does is we create artworks for everyone, not for a specific audience, because this was shown in the village first, and yeah, they were part of this. They were part of this history. They all know about it, and they can connect with it. And I don't know about the urban audience that are here now. So I think you can connect as well. So we create accessible art for everyone, not only a particular, as elites of, if I can say so.
Thank you, Sonia and Mushun. I have a question for Mushun and actually Shawon. I was wanting to ask how is the archiving situation here in Dhaka, and asking about it, just thinking of how available it is, and if there are people here who are really invested into archiving, what practices or like the new types of writing and new types of creating narratives today. And to Sonia, I think it's mostly a comment, and it's something that came in my mind because I remember when I was reading. Hello? So when I was reading the book, at some point there was a mention of Chimurenga, an interview that Philippa, I think, said that she. But then being conscious that you have to speak nearby, like near that something that is like maybe a fact or true or not, but really countering it and creating new ways for people to be able to understand that maybe, but then every other possibility that surrounds it. Is it okay? Should I? Yeah.
So, as a gate, you wanted to know the present activities here who are working, thinking about to contribute in the making art history here. Am I right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. The thing is that, as I know, in the perspective of Bangladesh, we didn't have that much practice of making artistry of our own in the, what people call in the, if you see in the modernist perspective. What I wanted to say, like that, we have artistry department here. We have some teachers also, but I have a strong doubt how they are contributing to making new artistry. Mostly academies, fine art academies are actually playing a role of it as a device only, not the place where people are practicing something creativity to making artistry, something like that. It's very, maybe there are some rare example of alternatives or something very rare example you can find, but this is the most scenario here. But the other people who are involved in some research projects or making practicing art in the other way, they are practicing art definitely, and definitely it's true that different kind of art initiatives has been launched and they are playing a very important role. But I should say they are getting importance, they are getting focused day by day, but making histories is still almost absent here. Because we don't have much writer here who knows many things, because actually it is a lack of multidisciplinary approach, what I feel sometimes. Because in the art history, who are studying art history here, they're studying some modern art history and maybe study of Bangladesh art, maybe Indian art, so this kind of thing. They don't learn much about anthropology, archaeology, and other discipline which is very much connected to making new art history. The art is a concept which is changing day by day, as I understand. The new type of concept should be recognized by the institutes or some kind of, I should say, the power structure. You know, the power structure always play a very important role for making art history. Even, for example, we are sitting here, that is the Bangladesh Shilpakala Academy, which is a government agency. They have a research part also, they have a fine arts department also, but if you ask, okay, what they have done for last 50 years or last 30 years, the Shilpakala Academy established in 1975, so it's a long way. So it's a very rare publication you can find. And even last 20 years, if you see, it is difficult to say. They have published some very interesting books, which is contributing to think in new ways. So that is the reality, what's happening here. But what I am also want to add, some other people, young generations are thinking in some other way. They are working in the way, which is not very much focused still now, and that is not, I should say, we need more time. We need more time to see visibly, to see them. Maybe it will come in future. So we need time. And one thing I should add in the reply of your questions, that multidisciplinary approach should be more encouraged here, as I believe. It's my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but my opinion is that only the art, only the politics, only the social science, only the archaeology cannot solve all the problems nowadays. So we need to know everything, most of the things. So that is very much absent here in most of the South Asian countries. As I know, I don't have any idea about Africa or Europe, what they're doing, but I can say this type of lackings is still present here, but some new people are coming with the new ideas, and we hope for the best. Maybe we can see something, some new kind of artistry will arise here after maybe 10 or 20 years. We need time.
I can imagine also that censorship is also very, very present, and is also like a barrier to those type of practices. Because I remember when we came last time, we visited Shobimela. No, not Shobimela, it's the Biennale, but the school, the photography school, Patshala. And remember we, like in the conversation, then they were telling us about Shahidul, who was there actually with whom we met, and who I think is working really towards that, but who at some point was stopped. Yeah, so I really think that censorship also has a big role to play in it. And then after that I encountered another book. I forgot the name of the writer, but I think the title was Truth Hurts. And it was published by Drake there, and it was really telling about the history of Bangladesh and the different revolution and all those. And I found it very fascinating to do that work from that writer. Thank you.
I can comment, because I totally agree with your comment, and just the reason why I call myself a militant interdisciplinary historian is because when you do history, it has to have a meaning. And the meaning is my political side and the amount of disciplines that I can relate, or my work can relate with. So I think it's important for you it's really important to position yourself. But bringing to the question to academia, and the way when I wrote my PhD, and then I had to transform it into a book, I was faced with people in academia who could not understand the way I was writing the book, because most of my work was interviews. So I had spent hours over hours transcribing and translating them to English. And now what do? Will I do an analysis of this interview and just create my own voice over them? Or I will just put plain, simple, what people transmit to me. And I have huge blocks of interviews that I just clean a little bit, of course, languages and so on. But I have these huge blocks in the book because it's not my voice that is important there. Is the voice of the one who's telling the story, and is the voice of the one who's reading the book. So in academia, this is not very well accepted because you have to collect analyze and put your own words. So I didn't want to, and exactly. So that's why, that's how I position myself in academia. I do research, yes, but it's not my voice that I have to transmit. It's the voice of these 40-something years of history that had basically we've been wiped out of history. And how, for example, we talk about Cabral, about Amilcar Cabral, but like all this collective of people, like thousands and thousands of people that participate in what it became the intellectual thought of Cabral is not basically in any book. And that's why I had to position myself on how I will do the research and how I will present the research. So I think the positioning on when you are doing something is really important, and from which perspective you are telling. Like, I was born in Portugal, my parents are from Cape Verde, I speak the language, which means that I have access to information that maybe other people who don't speak the language will have. So all of this I have to explain, and I'm young, like I cannot go, oh, I'm going to do research with the 80 years old lady. It's like, I'm not a researcher, I'm her granddaughter, basically. So it's in this position that I have to put myself and to do research or to ask questions. And I just have to listen. I cannot criticize, because there is all these social codes that we culturally have, and we have to understand that. So this is really important, of understanding where you position yourself in order to do a good research and how you want to present that research.
So this is a question sort of following on what Shawon was speaking about earlier, in terms of there not being many writers or people working, putting together a new Bengali art history in the past few decades. I think when we're talking about making history, we think of it as something retrospective. We're like looking backwards in time and talking about what happened. But in order for new history to be made, we need archives, right? We need to be archiving what's happening. What are your thoughts on how archives are being created and made accessible for what is happening now in Bangladesh?
Actually, at the beginning, I said that I have a hypothesis that Bangladesh is a land of a river. That's why we don't understand the importance of archive thing. We're changing every year and day by day. And it's just a hypothesis. But it has a meaning. You can see, if you ask any Bangladeshi guy, can you tell me your forefather's name? You can try. He or she can tell 2, 3, or 4 generations. Then he cannot tell the name. Why? Especially the Bengali Muslim have this kind of problem. The Bengali people are actually practicing some kind of different type of practice, which is I should say, forgetting things. It's their practice, unconsciously, most probably. That's why they don't want to learn, they don't want to remember, actually. So, many things happen. This is not the right place to discuss in detail. But this is happening. And I can tell you later, by person, that what I am telling like this. But I have a strong doubt that we have a practice of forgetting things. So we don't want to learn or remember things, actually. So that's why we don't want any archive also. Even we have a national archive. I used to go there for my research purpose, and I hardly see the Bengali people are working over there. Even you can see, I found many important evidence from that National Archive. But the problem is not the archive, actually. The importance of research work is almost absent here. If you see the research paper or dissertation paper of Bangladesh in the Faculty of Fine Arts, even any other university who are practicing Charukala departments, most of the papers are not up to the mark. Why? It's a basically who are practicing fine arts mostly. They do not have practice of research in that way. So I think we need to work on this more, and we need funds. We need some good guides who can guide the students. Maybe we have some teachers who are very good at guide the students, but they are very few. To start research, we need archive definitely, but this is also true. We need to think the research is important. We don't understand that, when a student came to the art institute, they have a plan to make themselves as an artist, and they dream like that, okay, one day I will be a Jainul or Kamrul or Sultan kind of thing, the pioneer artists who are pioneer artists in Bangladesh. So they started painting or learned some skill here. But research is something else, and every artist is a researcher in some way, you can say. Every artist is practicing, if just digging something. They have their different kind of artistic research. But making history is different. Artistic research and making history is not the same thing. So you can see some people are researching for their art project. It's possible. But making history, by trying to contribute the history in Bangladesh is really difficult nowadays. Maybe some new people are working in this way, and I hope something will be happening in future. So we need to wait for till that day. Yeah, please.
I wanted to make a comment on your hypothesis. I think in the subcontinental context, when you say that we're not interested in history, or we don't think about history or keeping the historical, we haven't done it in the written format, but if you consider oral history, how the history traveled and changed over times, over myths, and we've been always very vocal people. We have a rich history of oral traditions, oral myth. If you think about the Gadi pot, how it traveled, Chad Saudagar. These are all history. It's in oral form, and it changed over time. So we are interested, but we are interested in more of a cultural way. Some songs and paintings, stuff like that. Not a very, theoretical academic way.
It's okay. All right. I think this is a very interesting point, and it's something that's really emerged throughout the panel as well. Is that obviously the material conditions with which the history is being made have such an impact on the kind of history that's made, and it's really nice to listen to this panel after watching the film earlier, which was the transmission of memory being then embodied by a younger generation, and how that was then a different type again of materialization of the history in a very relational way, which makes a lot of sense in Mali or Senegal. So we continue this afternoon. Yeah, well, so it's already the afternoon, so you can run and get some lunch. At 3 o'clock, we'll be back here with a collective economies panel. And I just wanted to also draw your attention to the fact that the Festac 77 book, which Ntone was talking about during his presentation, is here, so you can come and take a look. And we have a few copies. So feel free to come and talk to us about that. And there's also Sewing Somankidi Kor. So this is the book that relates to Harabi Duja, the film we saw earlier, and also the panel this afternoon, and the book of Luta, caba, inda. So books. This is a way of writing history that we all know quite well, but they're very well done. So thank you very much to our panelists, Sonia, Mushum, Ntone, and to Shawon, our moderator. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in an hour.